Hello, everybody. I am Mrs. Poppet, and this is my place. I am so happy to see that you came back again today, for you are always welcome for my story time, and I do enjoy your company very much. Today's story is called The Tinderbox. I don't know if you've heard it before, but it's a very good story, so why don't we get started? The Tinderbox. A soldier came marching along the high road. Left, right, left, right. He had a knapsack on his back and a sword at his side. He had been to wars and was now returning home. As he walked on, he met a very frightening-looking old witch in the road. Her underlips hung quite down to her breast, and she stopped, and she said to him, "Good evening, soldier. You have a very fine sword and a large knapsack, and you are a real soldier, so you shall have as much money as you'd ever like." "Thank you, old witch," said the soldier. "Do you see that large tree?" said the witch, pointing to a tree which stood beside them. "Well, it is quite hollow inside, and you must climb to the top, where you will see a hole through which you can let yourself down into the tree at a great depth. I will tie a rope around you so that I can pull you up again when you call me out." "But what am I to do down there in the tree?" asked the soldier. "Get money," she replied, "for you must know when you reach the ground under the tree you will find yourself in a large hall lighted by 300 lamps. You will then see 3 doors, which can easily be opened, for the keys are in the locks. On entering the first of the chambers to which these doors lead, you will see a large chest standing in the middle of the floor, and upon it a dog is seated with a pair of eyes as large as teacups. But you need not be afraid of him. I will give you my blue apron, which you will spread on the floor, and then boldly seize the dog and place him upon it. You can then open the chest. Take it from it as many pence as you please. They are only copper pence, but if you'd rather have silver money, you must go to the second chamber. Here you will find another dog with eyes as big as mill wheels, but do not let that trouble you. Place him upon my apron, and then take what money you please. However, if you like gold best, enter the third chamber, where there is another chest full of it. A dog who sits on it is very dreadful. His eyes are as big as towers, but do not mind him. If he is also placed on my apron, he cannot hurt you, and you may take from the chest whatever gold you will." "That is not a bad story," said the soldier. "But what am I to give you, you old witch? For of course you do not mean to tell me all of this for nothing." "No," said the witch, "but I do not ask for a single penny. Only promise to bring me an old tinder box which my grandmother left behind the last time she went down there." "Very well, I promise. Now tie the rope around my body." "Here it is," replied the witch, "and here is my blue apron." As soon as the rope was tied, the soldier climbed up the tree and let himself down through the hollow to the ground below. And here he found, as the witch had told him, a large hall in which many hundreds of lamps were all burning. Then he opened the first door. Ah! There sat the dog, with the eyes as large as teacups, staring at him. "You're a pretty fellow," said the soldier, seizing him, and placed him on the witch's apron, when he filled his pockets from the chest with as many pieces as he could hold. Then he closed the lid, seated the dog upon it again, and walked into another chamber. And sure enough, there sat a dog with eyes as big as mill wheels. "You had better not look at me in that way," said the soldier. "You will make your eyes water." And then he seated him also upon the apron and opened the chest. But when he saw the quantity of silver it contained, he very quickly threw away all the coppers he had taken and filled his pockets and knapsack with nothing but silver. Then he went into the third room, and there was the dog, the really hideous dog. His eyes were truly as big as towers, and they turned around and around in his head like wheels. "Good morning," said the soldier, touching his cap. for he had never seen such a dog in his life. But after looking at him more closely, he thought he'd been civil enough, so he placed him on the floor and opened the chest. Good gracious, what a quantity of gold there was! Enough to buy all the sugar sticks of the sweet stuff women, all the tin soldiers' whips, rocking horses in the world, or even the town itself. There was indeed an immense quantity. So the soldier now threw away all the silver money he had taken and filled his pockets and his knapsacks with gold instead. Then he not only filled his pockets, but he filled his cap and his boots so that he could scarcely walk. He was really rich now, so he placed the dog on the chest and closed the door and called up through the tree, "Now pull me out, you old witch." "Have you got the tinderbox?" asked the witch. "No, I declare I quite forgot it." So he went back and fetched the tinderbox. Then the witch drew him up out of the tree, and he stood again on the high road with his pockets, his knapsack, his cap, and his boots full of gold. "What are you going to do with the tinderbox?" asked the soldier. "That's nothing to you," replied the witch. "You have money, now give me the tinderbox." "I'll tell you what," said the soldier. "If you don't tell me what you're going to do with it, I will draw my sword and cut off your head." "No," said the witch. The soldier immediately cut off her head, and there she laid on the ground. Then he tied up all his money in her apron and slung it on his back like a bundle, put the tinderbox in his pocket, and walked off to the nearest town. It was a very nice town, and he was put up in the best inn. He ordered a dinner of all his favorite dishes, for now he was rich and he had plenty of money. The servant who cleaned his boots thought they were certainly a shabby pair to be worn by such a rich gentleman, for he had not yet bought any new ones. Next day, however, he procured new clothes and proper boots, so our soldier soon became known as a fine gentleman, and the people visited him told him all the wonders that were to be seen in the town, and of the king's beautiful daughter, the princess, which was the biggest wonder of all. "Where can I see her?" asked the soldier. "Oh, she's not to be seen at all," they said. "She lives in a large copper castle surrounded by walls and towers. No one but the king himself can pass in or out, for there's been a prophecy she will marry a common soldier, and the king cannot bear to think of such a marriage." "I should like to meet her," thought the soldier, but he could not obtain permission to do so. However, he passed a very pleasant time, went to the theater, drove in the king's garden, gave a great deal of money to the poor, which was very good of him, for he remembered what it had been like in the olden times to be without a shilling. He was a fine fellow and a real gentleman, and all this gratified him exceedingly. But his money would not last forever, and as he spent and gave away a great deal daily, and received none, he found himself at last with only 2 shillings left. So he was obliged to leave his elegant rooms and live in the little garret under the roof, where he had to clean his own boots and even mend them with a large needle. None of his friends came to see him, for there were too many stairs to mount up. One dark evening he had not even a penny to buy a candle, and then at once he remembered that there was a candle inside the tinderbox, which he had helped brought up from the old tree where the old witch had helped him. He found the tinderbox, but no sooner had he struck a few sparks from the flint than the steel door flew open, and the dog with eyes as big as teacups, whom he had seen while down in the tree, stood before him and said, "What orders, master?" "Hello," said the soldier. "Well, this is a pleasant tinderbox, if it brings me all I wish for." "Bring me some money," he said to the dog. He was gone in a moment, and presently returned carrying a large bag of coppers in his mouth. The soldier very soon discovered the value of this tinderbox. If he struck flint once, the dog who sat on the chest of copper money made his appearance. If twice, the dog who sat on the chest of silver came, and if 3 times, the dog with the eyes like towers who watched over the gold came. The soldier had now plenty of money. He returned to his elegant rooms and reappeared in fine clothes, so that his friends all knew him again directly, and made as much of him as before. After a while he began to think it very strange that no one could get a look at this princess.
Everyone says she's very beautiful, he thought to himself. But what is the use of that if she is to be shut up in a copper castle surrounded by so many towers? Can I by any means get to see her? Stop! Where's my tinderbox? Then he struck a light, and in a moment the dog, with the eyes as big as teacups, stood before him. It is midnight, said the soldier, yet I should very much like to see the princess, if only for a moment. The dog disappeared instantly, and before the soldier could even look around, he returned with the princess. She was lying on the dog's back, fast asleep, and looked so lovely that everyone who saw her would know she was a real princess. The soldier could not help kissing her, the true soldier that he was. Then the dog ran back with the princess, and in the morning, while at breakfast with the king and queen, she told them what a singular dream she had had during the night of a dog and a soldier, that she had ridden on the dog's back and been kissed by the soldier. That is a very pretty story indeed, said the queen. So the next night one of the old ladies of the court was set to watch by the princess's bed to discover whether it was really a dream or what it might be. The soldier longed very much to see the princess once more, so he sent the dog again in the night to fetch her, and to run with her as fast as he ever could. But the old lady put on galoshes and ran after him as quickly as she did, and found that he carried the princess into a large house. She thought it would help her to remember the place if she made a large cross on the door with a piece of chalk. Then she went home to bed, and the dog presently returned with the princess. When he saw that a cross had been made on the door of the house where the soldier lived, he took another piece of chalk and made crosses on all the doors in town, so the lady-in-waiting might not be able to find the right door. Early the next morning, the king and queen accompanied the lady and all the officers of the household to see where the princess had been. Here it is, said the king, when they came to the first door with the cross on it. No, my dear husband, it must be that one, said the queen, pointing to a second door also having a cross. And here's another one, and there's another one, they all exclaimed, for there were crosses on all the doors in every direction. So they felt it would be useless to search any further. But the queen was a very clever woman. She could do a great deal more than merely ride in a carriage. She took her large gold scissors and cut a piece of silk into squares and made a neat little bag. This bag she filled with buckwheat flour and tied it around the princess's neck. Then she cut a small hole in the bag so the flour might be scattered on the ground as the princess went along. During the night, the dog came again and carried the princess on his back, and ran with her to the soldier, who now loved her very much, and wished that he had been a prince, so that he might have her for a wife. The dog did not observe how the flour ran out of the bag all the way from the castle to the soldier's house, and even up to the window where he had climbed with the princess. Therefore, in the morning, the king and queen found out where their daughter had been easily. And the soldier was taken up and put into prison. Oh, how dark and disagreeable it was that as he sat there, and the people all said to him, "Tomorrow you will be hanged." It was not very pleasant news, and besides, he had left the tinderbox at the inn. In the morning he could see it through the iron grating of the little window, how the people were hastening out of the town to see him hanged. He heard the drums beating, saw the soldiers marching. Everyone ran out to look at them. A shoemaker's boy with a leather and slippers on galloped by so fast that one of his slippers flew off and struck against the wall next to him. "Hello!" cried the soldier to the shoemaker's boy. "You need not be in such a hurry," cried the soldier to him. "There will be nothing to see until I come. But if you will run to the house where I've been living and bring me back my tinderbox, you shall have 4 shillings. But you must first put your best foot forward." The shoemaker boy liked the idea of getting 4 shillings, so he ran very fast and fetched the tinderbox. He gave it to the soldier, and now we shall see what happened next. Outside the town, a large gibbet had been erected, around which soldiers stood and several thousands of people. The king and queen sat on splendid thrones opposite to the judges and the whole council. The soldier already stood on the ladder, but as they were about to place the rope around his neck, he said that an innocent request was often granted to a poor criminal before he suffered death. He wished very much to smoke a pipe, as it would be the last pipe he should ever smoke in this world. The king could not refuse this request. So the soldier took his tinderbox and struck fire once, twice, thrice, and there in a moment the dogs, the one with the eyes as big as teacups, the one with the eyes as large as mill wheels, and the third whose eyes were like towers, were in front of him. "Help me now, that I may not be hanged," cried the soldier, and the dogs fell on the judges. All the counselors seized one by the legs and another by the nose and tossed them many feet high in the air, so that they fell down and were dashed to pieces. "I will not be touched," said the king, but the largest dog seized him as well as the queen, and threw them after the others. Then the soldiers and all the people were afraid and cried, "Good soldier, you shall be our king. You shall marry the beautiful princess." So they placed the soldier in the king's carriage, and the three dogs ran on in front and cried, "Hurrah!" And the little boy whistled through their fingers, and the soldiers presented arms. The princess came out of the copper castle, became the queen, which was very pleasing to her. The wedding festivities lasted a whole week, and the dogs sat at the table and stared at it all with their eyes. Wow! Did you ever think this story would end like that? Well, I didn't. It was very exciting, wasn't it? But it does show that you have to really, really appreciate what you have, and being generous to those who don't have as much as you is a very good thing to be. And even though the soldier took the tinderbox from the witch, he was doing good with the money as well as living on it. And that's what really matters. So always remember to be kind and do whatever you can for others. Well, that's it for today. See you next time.